Hi. There was a season in my life when I lived in a state of emotional overload. My thoughts ran in circles, anxiety was ever present, and depression was threatening to become a reality. I hadn't healed from my past. I was stuck in the future because I didn't want to accept the present. I wanted my life to align with what I had envisioned and not what was actually happening. Does any of this sound familiar? Let's talk. My name is Sandra, and welcome to Released. This channel is about spiritual growth, it's about emotional healing and relationship clarity. It's also about living life God's way. Here we focus on releasing so we can live released, releasing struggles that weigh us down and lifestyles that don't align with where we're headed. Then living released lives that fulfill divine purpose. So, this is part 3 of the New Beginnings Why Me, Why Now series. Now, disclaimer, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a mental health professional, but here's what I've learned about emotions, especially what happens when they start controlling you and the bondage that can result from that. Emotions are not enemies that need to be suppressed. I used to think this. Emotions are actually signals to be explored. Sadness, anger, or any other emotion points to who or what is deeply important to us. The problem comes when emotions stop signaling us and start controlling us. I'll say it again. Emotions become problematic when they stop being signals and start dictating our words, our decisions, and our actions. That's emotional imprisonment because we've allowed temporary signals to become permanent strongholds. We've given emotions residence when we should have acknowledged them, resolved root issues that cause them, and released them. So, in this episode, I want to mention a few ways that we can find ourselves imprisoned by our emotions. And let's start with this one: your mind, negative thinking. It's so important to choose what you think about because what you think about, you'll start to believe whether it's true or not. Emotions are attached to your thoughts. Emotions are birthed from thoughts, and thoughts can evoke emotions. So they're tied together, those thoughts. So let me give you some examples of the negative thoughts that we can have in our minds. Self-limiting beliefs, such as I can never be, I can never do, I'm not enough. These can lead to feelings, emotions of inadequacy. Also, adopting a victim mentality, like nothing good ever happens to me, people are against me. Another one of negative thinking, constant comparison, measuring yourself against others, whether it's financially, whether it's physically, spiritually, and then ruminating on the future. That causes anxiety. Ruminating on the past. When your mind continuously replays situations and conversations that hurt you, that can lead to depression. So when negative thought patterns persist, the connected emotions will persist also. That's bondage. That's emotional bondage. Another way we can be imprisoned by our emotions, toxic relationships. Unresolved relationship issues that don't disappear, they just get more complicated. They don't go away. And the emotional turmoil that can result from these relationships can place us deeper and deeper in bondage. Let me tell you a quick story. I recently had to figure out how to get a cactus out of a planter. I tried to just pull the cactus out, but I met with a lot of resistance. And what I realized was the cactus was strongly rooted through caked potting soil inside this huge planter with kind of a narrow opening. The, the cactus had been in there for quite some time. So the process to release it was more tedious. It took a lot more time and effort. It took a lot of skill and strategy than I originally thought I had to exert. I actually had to use a knife to cut down and around all of the roots and eventually work the cactus out. My point is this: sometimes your surroundings have you bound like that cactus. You've become deeply rooted in some toxic circumstances like relationships. And as time goes on, the stronger those roots become and the harder it is to break free. So sometimes freedom means drawing boundaries. Sometimes it means effective communication. Sometimes demanding better, and sometimes it may mean leaving. Brings me to the next way we can be imprisoned by our emotions: resisting change. Change feels hard, so at times we choose to operate in what's been familiar. Resistance to change keeps us in bondage because we just don't want to make a decision to change anything. But we have to realize that transformation can bring solutions, that can bring healing, can bring clarity, and even can bring closure. Something else: harmful habits. In order to soothe pain, people can develop unhealthy habits by seeking immediate relief, which can lead to long-term emotional damage. You know those addictions such as alcohol, illicit drugs, overeating, overspending. You can choose to do something now that will haunt you, not just physically or medically, but emotionally for years. Another way we find ourselves emotionally bound, refusing help. Is therapy needed? Medical intervention? Staying bound by constant sadness, anxiety, anger, or depression instead of seeking much needed assistance will keep you emotionally imprisoned. I talked at the beginning of this episode a little bit about my season of emotional overload, but when I began to see emotions as signals only and not my identity, I acknowledged some key facts that set me free. I was not a sad person. I was not an angry woman. I was not someone who feared a future that looked differently than I once imagined. I was still Sandra, but I was the Sandra who had allowed her emotions to take control. And I had to figure out how to fix that, to see emotions only as those signals. And so by inviting God into that healing process, and through scriptures and prayer, self-reflection, journaling, and therapy, I learned to trace my emotions back to their root cause and uproot them like that cactus so I could heal, so I could be whole, and so I could be set free, no longer bound by emotions. Leads me to talk about emotional freedom, because I want to tell you what happens when you're emotionally free, when you capture, uproot, and permanently deport unresolved emotions that threaten your well-being. You do things like this: forgive. You do things like release resentment. You give grace to yourself. You give grace to others that you never thought you'd give grace to when you were hanging on to those emotions and those emotions were in control of you. You create healthy boundaries around yourself and you feel good doing it. You see ministry opportunities and you walk in your purpose because your mind has shifted from negative thoughts and from your emotions to God. And you answer questions. You get clarity like this question, who am I now? And I bring that question up because this is the question that I hear more than any other, especially from newly divorced women. And when you release emotions that can hinder you, you get the clarity. You get answers to who you are. You're very clear. When you're free, you replace negative thoughts with God's promises. You create new mental pathways in your brain, replacing those negative thought patterns with God's truth. Let me empower you. I want to tell you about a scripture, Psalm 119 and 45, which states, I will walk about in freedom, for I have sought out your precepts. I walk about in freedom. When I'm tied to my emotions, I self-imprison. But when I seek God and His wisdom, I'm reversing emotional bondage and I'm walking in freedom. In other words, let me put it like this. You can't fully seek God in your situation if you're hyper-focused on your feelings about the situation. I like to think of it this way as well. When emotions are high, logical thinking and spiritual discernment are low, and we miss solutions that can improve our lives. If you are experiencing anything that I've described during this video, and if you want strength over strongholds, if you want peace of mind over anxiety, and if you feel as if you've paid too big of a price living emotionally bound, I encourage you to seek freedom. Emotions are signals. Emotions are not the problem. The problem is the problem. Escape the prison of emotional bondage. New beginnings. Why me? Why now? Wake up. It's time to release yourself from whatever hinders you. Get up. Put Christ first, your foundation. Next, work on your emotional health, which is the internal. Then gain relationship perspective, the external. After you wake up and get up, then move up. Walk and step boldly into your released life now and forever. Hey, thanks for watching. On the way out, please like, subscribe, comment, share. Next up in this inaugural series, relationships. Bye for now.